Hello, hi, welcome back to Success Automation Playwright with JavaScript. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to do the configuration setting when you want to work with a different environment. So this is part number 27, environment variable configuration. So in the real world, if you are working in any company, there will be a different environments. Environment nothing but a their environment nothing but they'll give the code, they'll deploy the code in some environment, QA environment or dev environment, and there will be different URLs. Assume that we'll take one, uh, we'll take the this orange HRM. Assume that we'll take the orange HRM. So this is the live production box URL. This is the prod URL. This is product URL. QA environment. It will be something different like this. It will be like this QA. For example, if it's staging, it will be something like this. Yes, one. So different environment, they'll give the different. There will be different URLs. When you want to test, you have to use this URL. When you want to test with a QA, you have to use a different URL. Like they will add a QA here, or whatever it may be. Depends on the DevOps teams. If you are working, if they deploy the code in the staging, they'll put the S1 here, or sometimes the people may put the staging like this, or S1. Generally they'll put the S1. So you want to test the same script with the different environments. So when you want to test in the different environments, you no need to configure, no need to update in your script. That you can automatically pick the different URL based on your configuration. So to do this, there are different ways. So there are different ways, like 4 or 5 methods, different ways are there in Playwright with JavaScript. So this is the approach one. I just took approach one. This is the approach. Today I'll talk about the approach one. So in this approach, um, you need to do couple of configurations. So first thing is you need to run the this command npm install .NSF. So whenever you want to work with the environment variables, you need to run this command npm install .env space hyphen save. Just click this. Whenever you run this command, I already done, but still I want to show you. So whenever you do this, if you go to the package.json, there will be one dependency we added here. So after you run the command, you have to go and check whether this dependency is added or not. When it is added, then only you can work. Otherwise, you cannot work with the different environments. So this is the first step. So first step is installing the .environment library in your project. So second thing is you need to write a config.json file, and this config.json file you have to put in a root directory. So I have already created, I'll show you. So how you need to do is just click this bottom, you just click this any file and just go here, new file, and put config.json. So I already there, that's why it's giving error. So just give config1. So like this, I already created the config.json. So to show you, I just created some dummy Then I'll delete that one. So you need to create this one, config.json file. So this config.json file is very important, where you will put a different URLs. So here, if you see here, uh, just minimize. So as I told you, QA environment will different, staging URL will different. So to distinguish whether it's a QA or staging, I just took the different URL. One is playwright dev docs introduction and playwright.dev. So I am assuming that this is staging URL and this is the QA URL. So this is the first step. This is the second step. So first step is installing the library dot library, this one. Next, you need to create the config.json file, and you need to put the how many URLs you want, those many you have to put. And as the JSON file should be inside the flower bracket, I just put here. So this is the QA environment. I just put QA and base URL. What is the URL you want? Just put the base URL or web URL or anything based on your requirement. I just took as a base URL. So this is the second step. Third step is you need to write a config.ts file. This config.ts file also should be in the root directory. So I already created this config.ts file. So this file, what it contains is, here I am pulling the JSON file. As I have created the config.json file, so that file I am importing this. As this is in the root, I just put the dot here and config.json file, and the object is config. Now you need to put this library also, dot environment from dot env, and under this config.ts file I have written one method. This is a function. In Java they will call method, in JavaScript they will call a function. When you write a function without a class, you have to give function here, and the method get base URL, and as we are passing string, you have to give string here. Now we want to pull the environment based on our requirement. So now here what I have done is, in the 7th line I just created env variable, and under that I am getting the environment, get the environment. So whatever environment you give, whether QA, staging, whatever it may take, or if you don't give, by default it will take the staging. Now once we get the environment, I am passing this into the config method, config environment base URL. So I am passing the base URL. I'll tell you about what is this base URL. So this base URL is nothing but this one. Whatever you give this base URL, that is nothing but this one. So environment and base URL, it will pick the base URL from the JSON file and it return. So this is the third step you need to do, and the fourth step is you need to create the dot environment file under the root directory. You need to create the dot environment file in the root directory. So how to do? Just go select this one, it will come to the root directory, and click here, and as I have already created .env, this is the .env file. Here you need to give the environment and which environment you want to execute, whether you want to execute under staging or QA. We have configured in JSON file. If you see, we have given QA and staging. Only these two environment are given here, QA and staging. You can add multiple environment. Just for demo purpose, I have given the QA and staging. So this thing, where I was here. So I was here. In environment, you have to give the staging. If you give staging, it will pull the this URL. If you give QA, it will pull this one. This is the one way you can do. You need to set the environment as a staging or QA. So this is the fourth step. This is the fourth and the final step. After that, you want to write, you want to call your URL inside your script. So here what I have done, this is the default one we'll use for the JavaScript, and here I am calling the config.ts file. This is very important. This config.ts file, where I have written one method. So function get URL, this method. We want to access this method. That's the reason I am imported this one. So as this config.ts is under the root folder, /config.ts, and get base URL I given here. Once you give this, no, now I want to navigate to particular URL. So what I have done is, what I have done is, just I am calling the get base URL here. I created one variable const URL, and I am calling the method. This method is inside the config.ts file. So I am calling this method. Whenever I call the method, it will pull the URL and store that URL inside this variable URL. So it will pull the URL from this config.json file. So whatever you give, if it is QA, it will give this URL, staging this URL. So based on your requirement, like whatever you give here, I have given staging. Now it will pull this URL. If you give QA in the .environment variable, it will pull this one. So like this, you have to give. After that, I am storing that. I am getting the URL from the get base URL. I am storing here URL. That variable I am giving here. So now I want to run. I want to run this script. Now, as I have given the staging URL, it will pull the staging URL. Yeah, if you see here, playwright.dev. So if you see the URL, why it is picking playwright.dev means, in staging I have given this playwright.dev URL. Now I want to stop this. Now I want to run the QA. So whenever you want to run the QA, you need to go to the QA, the environment file, and just update this QA. Just update this one. Now if you see, the QA has different URL. Playwright docs introduction URL. Now it will open this URL. Quickly I will run this. Yeah, if it something wrong, go to URL. We'll run it again. Stop this. Yeah. What we have done, staging, right? Yes. Staging. We'll run it again. Yeah, if you see here, it has opened the Playwright Dev Docs introduction URL. This URL is there in our QA. If you see here, QA. So you can give as per your requirement. For example, you want to give, as I told in the beginning, you can give your own URL. For example, I just go here. If it is a QA, you can give this QA URL as per your requirement in your office. You can give this QA here, and same thing, you can copy the staging URL, this staging URL, and only thing you need to do is you have to go to the .env file and you need to give the QA staging whatever it may be. So now I have given only two here. You can give any number of, for example, I want to add I want to add one more environment. Just give comma here. Instead of staging, it's made dev environment. You want to run your schema dev environment. So people generally will give as dev. When you want to run the dev environment, just you need to take this and you have to give in this .env file. If you don't give anything, for example, if you don't give anything, assume that you forgot to give uh, so, to give the environment value in the .env file. So if we see our config.ts file, we have mentioned if no environment is given, or either you need to take the environment value which is there in the .env, or this is R symbol. By default, it has to pick the staging, or default you want to take the QA. So if you see that, now I'll run this. If you see in the .env file, I did not give anything. I just saved this one. Nothing I given. Now I'm trying to run this because by default I want to run the QA. I just given QA here. Now I did not given nothing here in the .env file. I'll run the script. If you see here, we need to configure the URLs properly. Now I want to give the URL. I'll configure this URL. Any URL you can put. I just put so I just put this one. So if no, it is staging, right? Yeah, QA. It's a QA. So in QA, if you don't give anything in the environment, QA environment by default it has to pick. So now I just updated this Playwright Dev. I'll run this. There is nothing in the .env file. By default, it has to pick the QA environment. Yes, if you see here, playwright.dev, it has picked. So by default, you want to run the QA environment. So that you can mention it in the config.ts file, whichever environment by default you want to run. If nothing is given as an environment, which environment default you want to run, that you have to give here. So like this, you can configure the environment variables. This is the one approach. There are different approaches, 4 or 5 approaches are there. So this is the first approach. Um, uh, I just want to take the class or share my knowledge. So in the next class or coming series or in the next video, I'll tell you the second approach, how we can do. Hope you understand this one. So I'll um, I'll share the steps whatever I told. So we'll go through the steps once again. This is the approach one. So approach one, first you need to run the command npm install .env save command. This will install your library, environment library. Second step is you need to create the config.json file, enter the root directory, and you have to mention how many environments in the JSON file. So as the JSON file, it will be in a flower packet, and how many URLs you have to mention it here. This is the first URL, one environment, and this is second environment. You can add as many as you like. You can add as a staging here, as a use staging, and you can add QA as a use. And the third step is config.ts file. This config.ts file, this config.ts file also should be in the root directory. Here, as I told, we are calling the config.json file, and we have imported the library .environment library, and we have put the config method in environment class. There is a method called config. You have to write this as well, and I am writing one method, get base URL. Any name you can give, doesn't matter, and you have to write this method, and default environment whatever you want, you have to put it here. And the fourth step is .environment file. In this that also should be in the root directory, and whichever environment you want to run dynamically, you can change it. Just change the environment here, and this value should match with your JSON file value. This one. If you give QA, you should give QA only. If you give staging, you have to give staging. Don't give just if you give STG, and if you give staging there, it won't work. This value should match it here. And the fifth step is you have to write your script, and in the script what I have done is just and imported this config.ts file, and I'm calling the method. This method will return the value URL. That URL I'm storing here and passing in the page.go to. Then it will open the URL. This is all about the today's video. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Subscribe my channel and share to your friends.